At 72, Robert finally forgave his only son. Then, he changed every lock on the house. The locksmith did not ask what had happened. He simply removed the old brass lock, installed a new one, and handed Robert 3 silver keys. Robert kept one. He gave another to his neighbor for emergencies. The third remained untouched inside the small paper envelope. It was the key he hoped his son might one day earn back. For 3 years, Robert had lived alone in the quiet house he once shared with his wife, Elaine. After she died, the rooms seemed to become larger. Her teacup still sat behind the glass cabinet door. Her gardening gloves remained in a drawer near the kitchen. And on Robert's nightstand was a photograph from their 38th wedding anniversary. Their son, Michael, lived only 20 minutes away. At first, Michael visited every Sunday. Then, the visits became less frequent. Soon, he began coming only when something had gone wrong. A late electric bill, a broken car, another job that had not worked out. Robert always helped. Sometimes it was $200, sometimes $500. Each time, Michael promised it would be the last. Robert wanted to believe him. He told himself that families were supposed to help one another. He remembered all the mistakes he had made when he was young, and he was afraid that saying no would drive his only son even farther away. So Michael kept the spare key. At first, it was for emergencies, but slowly, the meaning of the key changed. Michael began entering the house without calling. Robert would return from the grocery store and find him searching the refrigerator. Sometimes a kitchen drawer had been opened. Sometimes Michael was asleep on the couch. Robert felt uncomfortable, but he said nothing. He told himself that a father should always keep his door open. What he did not admit was that he was lonely. As long as Michael still had the key, Robert could pretend they were close. Then, one rainy Thursday morning, Robert entered his bedroom and saw that the dresser drawer was open. Inside that drawer, he kept Elaine's wedding ring. He had removed it from her hand at the hospital and placed it in a small blue box. The box was still there, but the ring was gone. Robert searched the drawer twice, then the closet, then every surface in the room, even though he already knew where the ring had been. He called Michael. There was no answer. He called again. Nothing. Hours later, a message appeared on his phone. "Dad, I can explain." Michael returned 3 days later. He stood in the kitchen with rain on his jacket and placed the ring on the wooden table. He admitted that he had taken it to a pawn shop to cover a debt. A friend had helped him buy it back. Michael began to cry. He said he had panicked. He said he had never meant to hurt his father. He said he knew the ring belonged to his mother. And once again, he promised it would never happen again. Robert looked at the ring between them. Part of him wanted to shout. Another part wanted to hold his son and say, "It's all right. Let's forget this ever happened." Because forgetting felt easier than risking the loss of the relationship. But Robert had said those words before. He had accepted apologies before, and every time he erased the consequence, the same wound returned in a different form. That night, Robert sat alone at the kitchen table. The ring rested beside Elaine's photograph. Rain moved softly against the window. Robert opened the Bible that had belonged to his wife. Several pages still carried her handwriting in the margins. A thin blue line had been drawn beneath Proverbs 4:23. "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Robert read the sentence again. For most of his life, he had believed that guarding his heart meant becoming suspicious, cold, or unforgiving. He did not want to become that kind of man. But sitting in the quiet kitchen, he began to understand something different. A guarded heart is not necessarily a hardened heart. A garden has a gate, not because everything outside is evil, but because what is growing inside deserves protection. The gate can open. People can be welcomed, but they do not enter by force, and they do not decide for themselves when they may come in. Robert realized he had confused forgiveness with access. Forgiveness meant he would not spend the rest of his life feeding anger. It meant he would not seek revenge or use Michael's failure to humiliate him. It meant he still hoped his son could change, but forgiveness did not require Robert to ignore what had happened. It did not require him to provide more money. And it did not require him to hand the same key back to someone who had used it to cross a necessary boundary. The following morning, Robert called the locksmith. After the new locks were installed, he called Michael. "I forgive you," Robert said. For a moment, Michael said nothing. Then Robert continued, "You are still my son. You may still come for Sunday dinner. But from now on, you will call first, you will knock, and the key stays with me until trust is rebuilt." Michael's voice changed. "If you really forgave me, you wouldn't change the locks." Robert closed his eyes. This was the moment he had always feared, the moment when love might be withdrawn because he had finally said no, but this time he did not surrender to the fear. "I forgive what happened," Robert said quietly, "but I will not pretend it did not happen." Michael ended the call. For several weeks he stayed away. Robert missed him. Some evenings he looked at the silent phone and wondered whether he had made a mistake. But slowly, the house began to feel like his home again. He started sleeping through the night. He returned to the Saturday breakfast group at church. He invited his neighbor in for coffee. He placed Elaine's ring inside a small locked box, not because he wanted to live in fear, but because peace sometimes needs practical protection. Then, one Sunday afternoon, Robert heard a knock at the front door. He waited. There was another knock. When he opened the door, Michael was standing on the porch. He held 2 cups of coffee. He did not ask for money. He did not reach for a key. He simply looked at his father and said, "Dad, may I come in?" Robert studied his son's face. Nothing had been completely repaired. One apology had not restored years of broken trust. There would still need to be honest conversations, changed behavior, and time. But the knock was a beginning. Robert opened the door. Not because the new lock no longer mattered, but because for the first time, both men understood why it did. Forgiveness opens the heart. Trust decides who receives the key. And sometimes, the most loving word an aging parent can say is not yes. It is, "I love you, but this must change." If you have ever struggled to forgive someone without surrendering your boundaries, remember this: you do not have to choose between a loving heart and a protected life. With wisdom, patience, and faith, you can have both.